make you one. Headstrong to take on anyone. I know that you are wrong if this is not where you belong. Hi guys, and welcome to Tailored Talk. Today we'll be talking about how it started, the beginning, the rise, and the rise, and now the question mark over Darren Till and Khamzat Chimaev's friendship. Together, they are known as the SMESH Bros, and this is their story. The first half of the SMESH Bros that I'm going to talk about is Liverpool's chosen one, Liverpool's prodigal son, Darren the Gorilla Till. Now, Darren Jake Till was born on the 24th of December on a cold Christmas Eve in Merseyside, Liverpool. His mother, Lynn Thompson, describes Darren as a cheeky, lovable kid with striking eyes. He has one sister. From an early age, Darren had always been interested in sport, from football to boxing to Muay Thai, and growing up, his father would take him to the gym for fun. Although Darren was a bright and inquisitive kid, he felt that school wasn't the right place for him. At around 14 years of age, Darren wanted to quit school and focus on fighting full time. Now, much to the horror of his mother, Lynn, this decision created friction between them. So Darren juggled school and the gym before his mother finally agreed to let him fight full time. Darren admits that while training and fighting in his teenage years, he and his father drifted apart, which Darren credits as more to do with his own focus on his fighting career. To this day, Father Till and Darren stay in contact, but are not as close as they once were. With the support of his mother, his grandfather, his family, and his friends, Darren was able to start a Muay Thai career, amassing a Muay Thai career of 44 wins and no losses. Now, growing up, Darren has always described himself as stubborn, hot-headed, and rowdy, saying that as a teen, he saw himself as a self-proclaimed hardest bastard in Liverpool. He was known for having a big mouth and was always looking out for his friends. Darren's willingness to do just that, looking out for his friends, would place him in shocking danger, as in August 2012, a chance encounter in a nightclub would leave the aspiring fighter fighting for his life. Now, Liverpool is a tourist attraction. The city is football mad, and there's a strong sense of people from Liverpool being proud of their heritage and their knit-tight community. But in parts of Liverpool, like everywhere else in the UK, there is a sinister criminal underbelly of gangs. In some places of Liverpool, the underbelly of gangs, weapons, crime, drug use, and violence. This pie chart that I've put up shows you the different types of crime that have happened in Liverpool for this month. At nearly a third of this pie chart, that's coloured red, details the violent crimes. At 38.8% is the level of violent crimes that have happened in Liverpool for the month. And this is the type of crime that teenage Darren Till fell victim to more than a decade ago. Here, in a podcast called Anything Goes, with a remarkable interviewer called James English, I'll put a link down below because he is a great interviewer. I'll put a link down below of the whole interview. Darren Till describes how he was attacked in a nightclub in his own words.
Because when I looked at it after on the cameras, you see what happens. So I'm just like hitting everyone, and in me way. And this lad comes up and he stabs me once, and then he walks away. But I haven't moved or anything. I'm just fighting. I haven't felt it. And then he comes back around. And he's like, "Fucking hell, this fucking kid's still fighting." And he does it again. And then, mate, for like, I'd say 10 minutes after that, I was still fighting. I was fighting with the doorman. Do you know what? Just to like put it in a nutshell, I fucking battered everyone in view. Like, I couldn't be stopped. People were smashing bottles on my head and everything. The doorman were fucking even cracking me, and I wouldn't go down. I just went psychotic. And then I got backed up by the doorman and loads of people. My mates were just going mad. Like, I don't even know where they were. I got backed into a corner in the toilets, and they were like, "Darren, you need to," like, I knew the doorman. They were like, "You need to stop. You've been stabbed." And I was like, "I haven't." I was going mental. And then I looked down, and my top was just red. It just changed the colour red, and I was like, "Whoa." I was like, "Nah, fuck that." And I was on the toilet seats thing, and I was kicking the doorman and that. And then as I've come out the toilet, I'm still fighting, and the next minute I've just got like a surge of like I come down, and I just went, "Whoa," and like collapsed on the stairs. And I was like, this is what I remember back to. I was like, "Whoa, I can't even move." And then the doorman, they dragged me up to the front doors of the club in town, and the head doorman, he pulled me against the wall. And this is the God's honest truth, I remember this bright as day. So I'm sat there, and he's going, "You've been stabbed, Dad. I need to put my fingers in your wound." So I think he had like army, so he put his fingers in my wound, and he's going, "I need you to stay awake." And I was going, "Nah." And I kept trying to like shut my eyes. And he was going, "Darren, I can't let you shut your eyes. You're not dying." He was saying all that stuff to me. So he had his fingers in my wound, and like I'm just like that. Whoa, what's going on? And I remember like seeing all people around like crying and that. And then I seen like blue flashing lights, the ambulance, and he's still got his. And I wanted to go to sleep at this point. I was just like, "Well, nah, just let me sleep." And I believe to this day, if I would have like went to sleep, I would have died, because where I'd been stabbed was so close to my arteries. Like even the doctor who did the surgery on me, he's like, "Darren, one more little bit, and it had ruptured both your arteries. You wouldn't have survived." So like I think of stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I remember being in the ambulance, and I was going to the woman, "Just tell me if I'm going to die." And she wouldn't answer me. And I was going, "Just tell me if I'm..." And she kept turning her head, and I was going, they had me strapped with my arms, and I started like shaking the thing, and I was going, "Just fucking tell me if I'm going to die." And she was like, "No, you're not going to die." And I remember getting carted off to the hospital, and I woke up like 2 days later or something, and my mum and some friends and that like standing at the end of my bed.
Soon after this, when Darren had barely recovered from the attack, his coach Colin Heron called him to the gym. He said that he was going to send Darren away to Brazil to get him away from potential attacks and more violence in Liverpool. Darren agreed. Through his coach's connections, he put him in touch with a Brazilian jiu-jitsu coach called Marcelo Brigadeiro. In Brazil, Darren trained in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and MMA. On the MMA circuit, he went with 15 wins and 0 losses before the UFC called him to take part on a Brazilian card. There, he faced Wendell Marquez and beat him by TKO in round 2. After speaking to the audience in English and Portuguese, the media labelled him as a star prospect to keep an eye on. Next, he had a fight of the night against Nicholas Darby, which was a draw, and then he had dominating performances against Jessin Ayari and Bojan Volkovic. In 2017, when a main event with a KSW champion and Thiago Santos versus Thiago Santos fell through, the UFC arranged for Darren to face UFC veteran Donald Cowboy Cerrone. Now, Cowboy had faced the best of the best, from Nate Diaz to McGregor to Lawler to a title shot against Dos Anjos. Cerrone had done it all and had no idea who newcomer Darren Till was. A month out from the fight, Till had torn his knee, but was determined to fight Cerrone anyway, as Cerrone was a huge name. Now, we need to ask if the UFC doctors knew about his injury, and if so, why they would let an injured fighter fight, potentially accumulating more damage to their bodies. But we'll never know. Choosing to fight injured turned out to be a heck of a positive direction, and a good decision for Darren's fight career, as once in the octagon, he stalked Cowboy from the start. Darren destroyed the veteran with elbows, finishing Cowboy Cerrone in round 1. With a jaw-dropping performance and a Defiance post-fight interview, Darren Till had put his name on the map and set in stone his path to become the next biggest UFC superstar. The second half of the SMESH Bros that we are going to talk about is the rambunctious Russian. 8 days notice is my jam. If anyone wants it, they can come and get it. Khamzat Chimaev. The word Borg, his fight name, means the wolf. Khamzat Chimaev was born on the first day of May in 1994. Not much is known about his family, as he tends to keep it private, but his parents split up. When he was younger, leaving his mother to look after him, his brother, and his sister all by herself. A feat which he constantly thanks her for. Growing up throughout the Chechen War, he, like Darren Till, was able to juggle school and sports at an early age. Khamzat competed in wrestling, kickboxing, sambo, and judo, which sounds familiar. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? As Team Habib and Islam went through the same thing. So the combination of sports is very common for Russian boys growing up. As a result, Khamzat became a talented wrestler, winning several national championships. Years later, his family were accepted into Sweden. Khamzat was invited to train at the All-Star training camp, training with the likes of Alexander Gustafsson, Garam, the Georgian Viking, and Jimmy Manuwa. He fought in the Brave Combat Federation, scoring viral knockouts before he was asked to join the UFC. Making his debut, Khamzat made history on UFC's Fight Island when he faced John Phillips, beating him with a Darce choke. Then 9 days later, he faced Reese McKee. He beat him by TKO. Then in September, Khamzat faced the stunning powerhouse that is Gerard Meerschaert, who promised to be a tough challenge for him. Unfortunately, Gerard was knocked out in round 1. After recovering from illness, Khamzat then faced Li Jingliang at UFC 267, choking him out with a rear naked choke in round 1 while screaming at Dana in the process. In just 4 fights, Khamzat Chimaev had a strike rate of 254 strikes to 4, meaning that he'd only been struck 4 times in 4 fights. And a lot of people are saying that is that's an accomplishment that no other fighter is probably going to score again. Either way, Khamzat Chimaev was on fire, and the whole MMA world knew it, including UK superstar Darren Till, who wanted to meet Khamzat as soon as possible. Now I'm going to talk about how the SMESH Bros got together, why they go viral, and why this pairing works. So when Darren Till reached out to Team Khamzat, at the time, Darren had 4 losses, both at welterweight and middleweight, with 1 win in between those losses to Kelvin Gastelum that held him afloat. Darren has lost in every way that you can imagine, from getting KO'd in his hometown to losing close decisions, being out-muscled by champions, and being dragged to the ground by tired but persistent wrestlers. To get into the right headspace, he asked Team Khamzat if he could train with them. They all agreed, and a bromance was born. In late 2022, Darren's co-enterprise, his business, Block Asset, filmed them meeting and training for the first time. Now, Block Asset have amazing videos if you want to see what Darren and Khamzat get up to. Great music, great editing. The Block Asset team have amazing videos, so take a look and subscribe if it takes your fancy. Now, when Darren Till and Khamzat got together and started training, they literally broke the MMA internet, because you could see that they had instant chemistry, and no matter where they were going to have fun, and it was going to be chaos. Now, it was clear that Darren Till needed a kickstart to put his career back on track. And it looks like Team Khamzat was going to change his career for the better. So this is why I think, in my personal opinion, this is why I think Darren and Khamzat worked. Now, disclaimer, I've never met either guy before, so I'm just going by what I've seen on social media and on certain channels and on UFC and how they bond during training and fights, etc. So I think Darren and Khamzat work because they are very much the same person. They both love sport. They are both loud alpha extroverts. Darren and Khamzat are both headstrong and outspoken. They both see themselves as leaders or having very strong leadership qualities. Khamzat and Darren both see themselves as future MMA champions. They both don't take themselves too seriously. I think both guys appear like they're rascals at heart. Both men are dedicated to their sport and feel like they have no ceiling and can achieve anything they want in combat sport or at anything that they take their hand to. One of the main reasons I think they get along is because both Khamzat and Darren are very protective and loyal to a fault. That was apparent when fighter Joaquin Buckley walked up to Darren and asked when they can fight. Both Darren and Joaquin were all smiles, but Khamzat immediately tried to challenge Buckley to a fight right then and there. So that shows you how protective Darren and Khamzat are over each other when they feel like one of them might be in trouble. So both Darren and Khamzat are extremely watchful and protective over people that they care about. I think they recognize and respect that quality in each other, and they have a closer bond because they mirror each other to a T. So Darren set up shop with Khamzat after his loss to Derek Brunson, hoping that Khamzat's drive and his wrestling skills would rub off. After recovering from injuries and settling in with Team Khamzat, Darren was offered to face up-and-comer South African zone Dracus Gaslighter du Plessis. Now, a lot of people thought that this was the kiss of death for Till, but I thought that it may have been a new beginning. I thought that this was Darren's comeback trail, because Darren is always the type of fighter that is a huge draw. So I thought that the UFC would be giving him an easy fight through Dracus so that he could get back on a winning streak. Like many times in MMA, I was proven wrong. Stipe versus Fabricio. Anyone? Kane versus Fabricio. Anybody? Yeah. Stipe versus Ngannou. Anybody? Yeah, I've been a disaster when it comes to the heavyweight division. I'm not gonna lie. So, like many times in MMA, I was proven wrong. And even with Team Khamzat cheering him on, Darren was taken down multiple times by Drakus before getting pummeled on the ground and submitted in round 3. After that, Darren was promptly cut by the UFC. And I say that he was cut because this is what I believed happened, although I have no proof. Dana calls up Darren and is like, look, kid, we're going to cut you. You're great and everything, Darren, but you've lost 5 out of your last 6. And we're going to have to let you go. And Darren's like, whoa, Dana, wait a second. Can I just have one more fight to prove to you that I'm the best in the world? And Dana's like, no fucking way. Sorry, kid. You'll always be a part of the UFC family, but this is the end of the line for you right now. And Darren's like, oh, for fuck's sake. And Dana's like, look, kid, calm down. We're going to cut you a solid, okay? When social media finds out all this shit, me and Hunter won't say anything, so you can say whatever you want. And Darren's like, what? I can just make anything up? And Dana's like, yeah. You can make up your own injury story, say that you're taking time out for family. You know, say that you're quitting the UFC for your business ventures, all of that shit. You know, no one will know that you're fired, especially not the fans. You're covered by us, okay? Hunter, Mick, me, we're not going to say shit, but you are fired. And Darren's like, okay, Dana, sound. And I'm sorry, I was not going to pull out try to do Darren's accent because that would be awful. So, you know, that's how I believe Darren was cut. You know, Darren was absolutely 100% cut from the UFC, unfortunately, because do you really believe that somebody with Darren's drive, Darren's tenacity, is going to just walk away from the UFC by choice? No. A guy like Darren Till, a company guy, a guy who realizes how lucky he is, a guy who loves and adores the UFC and everybody in it, he loves the UFC too much to leave by choice. Dana cut him so that he could work his way back in, and 5 out of 6 losses does look terrible. And even Dana can't justify bringing him back in. So they cut him. And, you know, he can get back in without a doubt. Dana's plan can work. I mean, look at what happened to RIP Anthony Rumble Johnson and Robbie Lawler. You know, they got cut because they kept on losing fights and weight cuts. You know, left, started smashing people outside, and then came back to the UFC and nearly became champion in terms of Rumble Johnson, and Robbie Lawler did become champion. You know, and had an awesome epic fight with Rory McDonald, which is now in the Hall of Fame. So Darren can absolutely kick ass and take names and get re-signed to the UFC. And here's how. Now, the man who's interviewed the who's who of WWF/WWE, the man who's interviewed the who's who and the champions of MMA, the man who interviewed the legendary Chris frickin' Jericho, Newcastle's own, True Geordie, said this about Darren and Khamzat's relationship.
In weight class was alarming. I knew straight away, I thought Darren is too small for middleweight. Immediately. It's not even about that. What I'm watching now, it's someone who just took 14 months off to sort his takedown defense out, and then got taken down 5 out of 5 times from a guy who isn't even a good wrestler, particularly isn't a great wrestler. I'm seeing him in round 2, when he's finally got the fight standing, when he isn't getting wrestled up against the cage, with a chance to make a dent in his opponent, just flat. Yeah, he outboxed him a bit, but then Duplessis got the takedown, and then in the third round, not looking like this is your third round to fucking change this fight and make sure you win the fight. You're giving each other hugs at the start. The mentality is not right. This whole thing that Darren has been saying, I'm losing to the best guys. It's like, no, you're not anymore, mate. You're losing to okay guys. You know what I mean? And that's where you have to completely reassess your fucking life and your career now. And I hope Darren does.
Now, before I start, True Geordie, his real name is Brian Davis. So, what Brian said about Darren taking 14 months off for wrestling and still getting taken down is what a lot of people have been echoing on social media. If you've been training with Khamzat for a year or 6 to 8 months, why do you look like that? Why do you get taken down so much? And for me, the answer is simple. However long Darren prepared with Khamzat doesn't matter, because you can't create a mini Islam, a mini Habib, or a mini Khamzat in 14 or 8 or 16 or 4 months. I mean, Habib got lucky with Hezbollah, but that's because Hezbollah is the GOAT, obviously. Hezbollah triple champion 2025. You guys heard it here first. As Luke Thomas said, a lot of fighters, a lot of fans, a lot of people in general underestimate Russian culture. A lot of Russian kids are wrestling out of the womb. For example, Islam trained with Habib since he was a kid. 7-year-old Habib is filmed wrestling with trained adult bears. Khamzat said that he started wrestling camps at the age of 5. In Russia, some of these kids are, not all, but some kids are literally bred to be fighters. They are bred to be warriors. They are groomed to fight. And most importantly, they are trained and pressured to win. The journey to combat sport is embedded in these kids from such a young age. And it's the same for US fighter Michael Chandler, who started wrestling at 5 also. There are a lot of kids in the US that are also groomed to fight from a really young age. And when I mean groom, I mean who are conditioned and put in sports in an early age. Same with Bo Nickel, who was and then turned out to be a prodigy. In the UK, in the US and the UK, parents are pretty much like, look, kid, whatever hobby you want to do, science, sport, dance, we'll support you. We'll pay for it and we'll support you. They don't pressure you to do anything. They just, whatever sport you like, whatever sport you're passionate about, whatever hobby you're passionate about as a kid, they kind of pay for and they support you. Darren in the UK did start sport at an early age, but the UK doesn't prioritise wrestling or combat sport the way that Russia does. The conundrum is, what can Darren Till do to get back into the UFC? Personally, I think that to get back into the UFC, Darren needs to go back to what I've dubbed as the Brazilian basics. To get away from everything that was going on in Liverpool and the results and the, having to live life in Liverpool after his attack. Colin, his coach, offered him a lifeline to go to Brazil to hone his skills and get locked into MMA to become the best. And I think he needs to go back to that same method, only with wrestling as the main objective. I think that he needs to hook up with an Olympian level wrestler and train with them, like the same way that Misha Tate was training with Olympian level judokas to prepare for Rousey the second time. Now, Darren is still young. He can always move his family to Russia, and I'm serious about that, to train with Habib or Islam. So Darren learned fluent Portuguese and learned to live in a foreign place, and learned to function and have a job and learn the language and communicate with people in Brazil because he moved to Brazil and soaked up the culture. And I think it's exactly the same attitude that he needs to apply with wrestling. I think that Darren Till needs to submerge himself in wrestling culture and expertise. Now, he may need to find a professional to help him out in Liverpool, or move to Russia and train with monsters day in, day out. Maybe he could hire a Henry Cejudo type, for his services, and train with him daily, or a David Taylor, a level type of Olympian that can dedicate their time, because this process to improve Darren's wrestling is not going to take months. I disagree with True Geordie, True Geordie, that it's not going to take 6 to 14 months. It's not going to take a year and a bit. This is going to be years and years of grueling, hard training. He's going to have to replicate, Habib's childhood in a way. Constant training, constant wrestling, multiple combat sports. Incorporating your wrestling as answers to combat sport. This is going to take years and years of hard work, and I'm 1000% sure that Darren Till could follow those tips and be a successful champion because he has an unbelievable amount of support and self-confidence. So what's going on with the Smash Bros as of now, in June 2023? As of now, the Smash Bros, Khamzat and Darren Till, are still best friends and still training together. Darren is planning to recover and get surgery for various injuries, and Khamzat and his team are allegedly planning to fight Kamaru Usman, and they say that it may be at UFC 297, but who knows? And I'm guessing that, of course, Darren Till, as his new best friend and his brother, will be in his corner to guide Khamzat and cheer him on. So guys, that's the end of the video. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching.
Decisions to hide. Back off, I'll take you on. Headstrong to take on anyone. I know that you are wrong. Headstrong, we're headstrong. Back off, I'll take you on. Headstrong to take on anyone. I know that you are wrong, and this is not where you belong. Decisions to hide. Back off. take you on. Headstrong to take on anyone. I know that you are wrong. Headstrong, we're headstrong. Back off, I'll take you on. Headstrong to take on anyone. I know that you are wrong, and this is not where you belong.